Hi everyone, my name is Tori, this is Novel Life, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have my October wrap-up to share with you. I actually read a decent amount of good books, but then I did read some not-so-good books. With all that being said, let's just go ahead and jump into some statistics because I haven't really been doing that lately, and I feel kind of bad that I haven't. So I had 5 5-star reads, 3 4.5-star reads, 3 4-star reads, 6 3.5 stars, 3 3 stars, no 2.5 star, 1 2-star, and 1 that I didn't rate because I read it for work. Now, I read 22 books total, 16 were contemporary, 6 were fantasy. As you could tell, that's what I've been in the mood for. And I had a wide range of ratings and all of that, but before we dive into all the books that I read in October, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, and that is Elle Kennedy. Elle Kennedy just had this new release on October 31st, and it is The Graham Effect, which has been a highly anticipated book for many people. This book follows Gigi Graham and Luke Ryder, and if you know the name Graham, you know she is the daughter from the couple from The Deal. Let me tell you, Garrett Graham, I love him, okay? That was one of my favorite books in the Off-Campus series. This is the next generation of the Off-Campus series from Rosewood and Briarview, and let me tell you, it is jam-packed with amazing banter. It is jam-packed with some amazing slow burn moments. When I tell you this is a highly anticipated book for everyone, literally everyone has been waiting to read this, and while this is almost 500 pages, it is definitely going to be a good one. A good one. I do know the audiobook is narrated by Teddy Hamilton and CJ Bloom, which is 2 of my favorite narrators, so wherever and however you read, you can get your hands on this book. I'll have it linked in the description box below. Like I said, Gigi and Ryder's story is one that so many people have been waiting for, and it is not a disappointment. It is a hockey romance that everyone should read, and everyone is gonna love. I'll tell you that, like, we've all been waiting for Miss Elle Kennedy to drop this book, let me tell you. So in this book, they have a win-win little situation that happens where Ryder is gonna teach Gigi some behind-the-net action because she is a female hockey player, which we love that representation, go female athletes, but also he needs a little bit of like an attitude adjustment because he's trying to get back into Garrett Graham's good graces because he has this like program where hockey players can show up and learn and be, you know, like it's just a good publicity thing for him, and he also wants to be in Garrett Graham's good graces. So Gigi and Ryder have known each other since they were in their teens. He thinks that she was just a figure skater taking the time on the ice, but she's actually Garrett Graham's daughter and was there to play hockey and teach him a couple of things. So it's a win-win situation. It's all the college fun stuff that Elle Kennedy brings. So definitely check out this new release if you haven't already. 22 books is a lot to talk about, and I don't want to be sitting here for 45 minutes. We'll see if that actually happens. So first book I read was Not So Lucky by Trilina Pucci. I read this for work. I have a PR company that I run with Jess at Peace Love Books. We did an audio tour for this book and I listened to it, and that was the first book that I read in October. I did really like it. If you're looking for the wedding in Vegas where they just have like a one-night stand, they're like, let's get married, let's do it, and there's like group activities, which I was not expecting, but it was really good. Super steamy, super spicy. It was a very fun time, and I think the audio was done really well. I will say that they had a full cast narration, which I was not expecting, so I really did enjoy this book. I would highly suggest checking it out. If you're looking for something that's just like a really fun, good time, definitely check out this. This is the Hello Lovely Box exclusive edition. It was one of the books for Trope of the Month, so if you want to join Trope of the Month, you can join the wait list, but you can use Novel Life and it'll get you 15% off of your order. Look at me being a Hello Lovely rep now. The next book I want to talk about is Best Laid Plans by Carla Sorensen. I gave this book 3 stars. So this dropped, I think, at the very beginning of October. October had a ton of new releases, and so a lot of these are going to be new releases that I'm talking about. So this one I listened to the audio of, and honestly, I don't particularly remember anything of it. Now, if I have a book that's 3 stars, it usually means the writing was good, it was solid. I remember when I read it, I said that the writing was typical Carla Sorensen. It was well written. I just felt like the plot wasn't the best, if that makes sense. I just wanted more. I feel like some of her books lately have just been like missing that oomph that kind of some of her older books have. So I think this is still available in KU to read and listen, if I'm not mistaken. I will have all the books linked in the description box below for you guys. They're affiliate links, but it'll take you right to the book. You can choose ebook or audio if you want. I felt like the audio was good. The narrators are solid. It just was missing that oomph, which I felt bad about. But the next one I read was one I read for a vlog, which is trying out new authors, which I'll link in the cards. in the description box below, and that is Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. So this was my first Stephanie Archer book, and let me tell you, I loved it. I gave this 4 stars. I think this is a solid read. Now, the only reason why I give it 4 stars is because the beginning, like the first 20 or 30%, took me a little bit to get into. I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. It was just like slowly dragging. Now, while this is very slow burn, I don't mind the slow burn of a romance, but to get to know the characters, I just felt like it took a little too much time for me to be like invested in the characters and invested with what they're doing. So that's my only critique about this book. I think it was so swoon worthy, and I loved that he was in the NHL and she was his assistant, but he helps her like with her music career after an ex told her like she would never be good enough, and he just like builds up her self-confidence in such a way that it's not only him hyping her up. He like truly makes her believe that she is capable of everything, which everyone is. But like when someone knocks you down, it's hard to get that confidence back. So I really, really like that. I'm definitely interested in Stephanie Archer's next book, which it ends with, I think, her best friend. You see her getting the next book. Either way, I'm definitely going to continue with the series. I know she has a previous series, so let me know which one of those books I should read first, because I'm interested. Then I read Butcher and Blackbird, and this was my first 5-star of the month. This was such a fun fucking read, guys. Like, this was 2 serial killers who meet and fall in love. And when I tell you, I didn't think that I would like really be invested, because I'm like, oh, this is just gonna be a fun book. It's 2 serial killers. It gave me the Mind F series vibes. And I loved that series, okay? This was literally 2 serial killers. You see that she went to go kill another serial killer. They're like serial killer vigilantes. So like they kill other serial killers and like bad people. And when they meet for the first time, she's like in this cell because she kills the person that captured her. She was like put in a bad position trying to kill him. She does kill him, but she's stuck in this cell because she doesn't have the keys. It's a small town, Louisiana, which I thought was really funny. And he comes around and was like, oh my God, you're the orb weaver, I think it is. Was she like, her thing for being a serial killer, she leaves these like intricate webs or something out of like yarn or twine or something like that. He's like, I'm such a huge fan. And then they slowly have this, it takes years for them to like fall in love, but he is like very like obsessed with her in like a different way. I don't know what it was. I just ate this book up. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It was so atmospheric. I did not listen to the audiobook, but I heard the audiobook is really well. He's Irish. He has this Irish family that is great. He's a chef. He's literally a chef. That's why he's called like the Butcher, not only because like he kills people and chops them up, but also he is so like touch her and you die. They go on like little serial killer game excursions together, and it is so great. I just had the best time. It was fantastic. I did read another good book, and that was Don't Forget Me Tomorrow by A.L. Jackson. This was a new release and I gave it 4 stars. I love a brother's best friend romance, and he is like so protective of her, but also like he doesn't want to rock the boat because he's like part of the family but like not part of the family. I think this is a really, really good small town romance that I thoroughly enjoyed. I think that A.L. Jackson is creating with this series. I did not read the first book in the series, but I want to go back and read it. I do have the audio for it, but I do liked how just like they had this like comfort in their romance because they've known each other for so long, and I think it just made a great book. I thought it was great, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. Now, the next book was Fate of a Foe by Alma Jones and Megan Brandy, and this book I gave 3.5 stars. So this is the second book in this series. I forgot. I read Fate of a Royal a couple months ago, gave it 5 stars. Loved that book. Love that book. This one, with the first book ending on a cliffhanger, I knew we were going to get their HEA in this book, but I felt like there was something missing. I felt like it was just a little too rushed. I felt like they were missing like pieces of their romance developing. It is now like a bully enemies to lovers romance because of what happened in the end of the first book. I don't want to say because it is like a big spoiler, but I was hoping for just a little bit more development. So I gave it 3.5 stars. Now, do I suggest this little duet? Yes. Do I think it's an interesting series to continue with? Absolutely. I am so interested in his other brothers because they all are like have different personalities, and it's very easy to differentiate between them when sometimes when you have like 5 guys that are all brothers, it's hard to differentiate, but they did a really good job of doing that. So I'm really intrigued. I would highly recommend this duet. Like, I think they're doing, each couple is getting 2 books in the series. So books 1 and 2 is one couple, 3 and 4 is one couple, and so on. So I don't know who the next couple is going to be. They didn't really allude to anything, but I'm interested. The next was a 5-star read again, and that was Caught Up by Liz Town Ford. I feel like I've had a lot of really good reads, and they all like hit me for many different reasons. Butcher and Blackbird were just like very atmospheric stuff. Caught Up made me sob. When I mean sob, the last 20% I mean like seriously sob. This is one of my all-time favorite single parent romances. Hands down, like it beats Heartless for me. And I didn't think that was possible, but the way that Kai is with his kid, he really, like he was put in this position where he had a one-night stand. He didn't know the mom was like the person he had a one-night stand with was pregnant. And she just dropped off the kid at like 6 months old, I think. It was like, I don't really want to be a mom. And he's like, okay. And he completely changed his life without hesitation. And I feel like that level of responsibility not everyone has, clearly, because the mom was just like, I don't want the kid, you know, he was like, whatever. But the coach is like the found family, not only with the series, the Windy City series, like all the books have like an interconnected sports romance thing. One's a hockey player, one's a basketball player, Kai is a baseball player, right? And they're all friends. That's a great found family aspect, but the found family aspect of the baseball team is unreal. So you're getting two different found families and all the characters get something out of that. Our female character is actually the coach's daughter, so it's like a little bit forbidden, but she's on her own healing journey and she's trying to figure out all of these different things, where she wants to do, where she wants to go, what she wants to do. She is a like really well-known like chef where she goes into restaurants and she kind of helps them like work out some of their kinks, like Michelin star restaurants she goes into and like puts her little touch on things like recipes, how things work and all that stuff. And she's just taking a break. Now, her dad was a single dad. Her mom died when she was very young. I think she was like in her teens, she was 13. So when she meets Kai, her dad's like, hey, can you help him like nanny his kid? He's gone through all these different people and they just want to be close to him and not really take care of the kid. They just want to be close to him because he's a really famous baseball player, to the point where he's like, I'm kind of ready to retire. I want to give my kid the best. And it was just a beautiful romance and just this like family aspect. So it's not only the romance between them two, it's her relationship with the child that is just, it was so good. Like I can't even tell you how good it was. Like I just need everyone to read it. Okay. The last book I read was for a new author reading vlog, and that was What a Match by Mimi and Grace. This was an adorable romance. I give 4 stars. It was like, that is the best way I can describe this book. Adorable, cozy, heartwarming, like relatable. There are people out there, like she is trying to get matched up with someone and she's tired of dating apps, so she goes to this matchmaker program that helps her. And then she's also dealing with her brother's a friend that's staying in her apartment because his apartment he can't live in. They're doing like construction work and stuff like that. So he's chilling on the couch and they have this like slow little friendship that develops. And while she's like looking for another person to start dating from this matchmaking service, the person that she really likes is standing in front of her and she just had to get to know him like that way. It was literally so adorable. All of the series, all the covers in this series are so cute, but I wanted to read this because obviously it takes place during fall and it was a perfect atmospheric book that I absolutely loved. So I would highly recommend that one. Perfect for November. I loved it. I loved her writing style too. Now I did read Good Game by Madison Fox. I am saying this, I'm going to be 100% upfront. I gave it 5 stars. I'm very biased. I think this was a very good debut book. So I am a gamer. I used to game all the time. I don't game anymore, but I used to game all the time. That's how actually me and my husband kind of got together a little bit. Anyway, so he wasn't a mass gamer, but we would talk over Xbox. So you couldn't really see people's faces. But now you have PCs and you can stream and all this stuff. That's a new thing. That's what this is. So you have this system. They're 3 masked guys. They all game together and they all stream separately too, but they also stream together. They are just like so sought after because people don't know what they look like, but you see the voices and you see this and you see that. It's very prevalent now. Like if you ever go on TikTok, listen, Madison is doing her own thing and I fucking love it. I love it that she's taking something different. I've never read a book like this and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I love the dynamic where our female character meets the main male character when he's masked at like a award show, a streaming award show. And then she meets him without his mask, but she doesn't know that they're the same person. He obviously does, but she doesn't. So she's like conflicted. And I think she wrote it amazingly. I think it was such a good debut book. And yeah, everyone needs to go read it because I loved it. I also love the cover. I love both the discreet and the person cover. So Great. I'm going to spend my money on both. The next new release I read was Hopeless by Elsie Silver. And I'm going to say this. This was in a video that I did where I was like, are these books worth the hype? And I go into a lot of my thoughts with this one and the next one I'm going to talk about. This one I gave 3.5 stars. Basically, while this is an end of an era, I felt like it did not live up to the other books in this series, which makes me really sad. But at the same time, like, what are you going to do? I just was like, why aren't these, like, why isn't the stories more fleshed out? Like, it was Bailey's book, which I didn't mind, but she hyped Beau up so much that I thought he would have a little bit more emotional depth to him in this book. And I just felt like there was just little things missing that the other books did better. So while I am a little bit disappointed, I mean, I'm still going to read Elsie Silver. I'm still a huge fan, but yeah, you can go check out that video for more of my thoughts. I also read Between Love and Loathing by Shane Rose. I gave this 2 stars, and I'm going to touch on this very briefly because I don't like to be super negative. While the romance was okay, if it was just a romance book, I would have given it 3 stars. It was okay. But I will say that the chronic illness representation in this book was awful. I'm sorry to say that. I don't like saying it, but as someone who does have a chronic illness, I don't like it being used as like, oh, I'm hiding this from this person, even though like I'm getting to know him, and then it becomes a thing at the end of the book. Like not a plot point, but it's like a reason why he's like, I love you, and I just no. Like I said, I go into like a 10-minute rant in that video, so I'll link it in the cards and the description box below. This one just was no go for me, but I read that book. But then I read Shadows of You by Catherine Cowles, and I was a little nervous to go into this book because Glimmers was good. Like Catherine Cowles like writes really well. There's no doubting that. But I was nervous because I was like, this could go one way or the other. Do you see the tabs? Do you see all these tabs? This is my first read through. I fucking loved this book. This rivals Shattered Sea for me, and Shattered Sea is my favorite Catherine Cowles book. Now, this is a single mom romance. She's going into hiding. She goes to a super small town. She has witness protection basically helping her. She's been living there for 5 years now, and she meets our main male character, who is this super grumpy, broody hero that is just like, he bulldozes his way into her life because something's happening, and she's like, someone's kind of going after her, and she feels kind of unsafe, and she doesn't know what's going on. Like someone's killing animals. Like basically there's a serial killer starting up. So he's like, I'm going to stay with you to make sure you feel safe. But she also has this like ranch of like all these animals that have been injured, and she's taken them in with her daughter. Literally, it was so good. Like I cannot sing the praises enough for this book. It's literally my favorite in this series so far. Like it literally, one day I'm like, oh, Shattered Sea is my favorite Catherine Cowles book. One day I'm like, no, Shadows of You is, if that says anything. I just thought this was fan-fucking-tastic. I'm going to touch on this book briefly, and that is Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. I tabbed this. I read this for an Annotate With Me video, which I'll link in the cards and in the description box below. This was a reread, gave it 5 stars. Not going to touch much more on that because I've talked about this a lot. I've talked about this book a lot. Now, the next 4 books I read for the Novellathon that some of my friends were doing, and I posted this as a weekend reading vlog on my Patreon, so you can join and watch that. But I read Queens and Monsters by Cleo Evans, which is a new release that came out in October. It is a female Medusa and Perseus retelling, and I gave it 3.5 stars because the other book that I read in this series I gave 4 stars. It didn't like live up to that, but it was still really good. It definitely had a lot more romantic suspense. Like it was very heavy on the romantic suspense, which I don't personally like, which is why I gave it a lower rating. I just wasn't expecting that. So yeah. Now the other 3 novellas I'm going to go through really quickly because they were just a fun time. Little Green Vines. Gave 3 stars. It was interesting. She used a cucumber, and then the other female character, because it's a female book, ate the cucumber that she used. And that was great. And it was fun. Blood Moon by Gillian Graves. This was fun because they were rivals. They were like enemies to lovers. They both had like bars across from each other, and they're different like species. He's a vampire. She is I think she's just a witch, but it was fun. It was a good time. I read this because Jess was doing a readathon for the weekend on her Patreon. This was the group book, but it was also a novella, and I gave that 3.5 stars. And then I read Bloody Fairy by The Love. I gave this 3 stars. It was fun. It was unique. I wish it was a full-length story. I just felt like it moved really quickly, but it had like a lot of emotional things in it. And I was like, ooh, this would have been a really good full-length book. Now, the next book I read was One Chance by Lena Hendricks. I actually received an arc of this, and I gave it 3.5 stars. I will say this is not my favorite in the series. So far, the first book in the series is my favorite, but I did enjoy this book. So this is a friends to lovers. It's like best friends two lovers romance where they kind of fake date, but I felt like, well, I do think this is fake dating. I just felt like it was like they just had a very physical connection and it never turned into a super emotional connection too. Like, I love the spice, right? But sometimes you can have a very physical connection, but you don't have to believe that the characters actually love each other. And I was like borderline, like, I wish it had a couple more chapters with just more of like the emotions of how they felt for each other, because I felt like that was skimmed over, if that makes sense. I really hope that makes sense. So that's why it wasn't like my favorite in the series, but I still really enjoyed it. I like the playfulness of the characters. I like that she's been keeping something from them or from him. They kind of have a unique relationship because he used to date her foster sister, and her foster sister died when I think they were young, like 18, 19, like when he came back from the military. Maybe they were 21, 22. So it's been a couple years, but they just never wanted to cross that line. So I just wanted that more emotion into it, and I felt like we really didn't get it, which kind of made me sad. But it was still a solid read. Like, I still really enjoyed it. I did read A Soul to Keep by Opal Rain. This was one of the picks for my Patreon exclusive reading vlog I do every month over there. They picked this one, and I gave it 3.5 stars. This was a very sweet monster romance. I just felt like, honestly, the smut part of it was too much for me. Like, it was weird. It was weird going from like this monster who is super sweet and wants to protect her and is cooking for her and hunting for her and doing all these sweet things to like immediately super smutty. And I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. Also, it was extremely long. Like, it did not need to be that long. Honestly, it did not. But I did listen to the audiobook, and the narrators did a really good job, especially the male narrator, to make it sound like he was a monster. He did a really good job. So I'm interested in the rest of the books in this series, but I probably won't physically read them. I will wait till the audiobooks come out because I think the 4th one recently just came out, and I'm excited. So the next one I read was King of Greed by Anna Huang. Well, technically I read this back in August. I was able to get a very early copy of it that I'm very grateful for. This is the illustration edition. I did get this. I don't want to show the other illustrations because while they are absolutely stunning, I love them. And she used different artists in here, which I like because I like different artist styles. I want people to grab them for themselves, and I don't want to spoil anything. But this was a 5-star read. I think Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life says it very well, that if you have been in a relationship for a long time, you understand the like emotions that Alessandra goes through in this book. So I've been with my husband. Tomorrow's actually, I'm filming this on the 2nd, so you're seeing this on the 3rd. I've been with my husband for 12 years. We've been together 10 years and married 2 years. When you are like together for that long, life can sometimes get in the way, and you kind of lose that love that you had, and you have to grow together and evolve together, and your love evolves and changes, and that's okay. And sometimes things can fall apart. And in this book, it fell apart. Dom did not put Alessandra first. And you see that. And it was heartbreaking. I cried by chapter 6. Like, seriously, I was sobbing. It was 10 a.m. when I was reading this book, and I really did sob. I was like, why? It just hit me because it's so relatable. Like I said, if you've been in a long-term relationship, it is very relatable because this is a marriage in crisis. And the groveling in this book, Anna Huang has been getting shit for the groveling in this, but the groveling is different. It can't be like Alex from Twisted Love, because Alex is completely unhinged as a character. He's different than Dominic. Also, it's two very different circumstances. He can't just give her things. She doesn't want things. She had all of these things in her marriage, and that didn't make up for anything. He has to be there emotionally for her. He has to literally emotionally be on his knees for her. And he had to do that, and it took time. He had to step away from his company. Like, he was ready to sell his company in this book. And yes, he did sign the divorce papers, because if he didn't, she would have never forgiven him. She was at the point that he couldn't beg in the marriage anymore. He couldn't beg her to stay. It wasn't working. He had to sign those papers and give her the space to figure out what she wanted in her life. And that took time. Honestly, that took time. So I will ride or die for this book. And I'm not only because I read it early, but because the way that Anna Huang wrote it is, she captured the emotions of that, of sometimes you feel like giving up on a marriage, and that is okay to feel that way, and you have to like reevaluate what you want. And at that point, Alessandra wanted something different. And yeah, she did go back to Dom. They do have their happily ever after, and it's different. Like, I want everyone to read it and understand that, because it's a different type of book. So this was a 5-star read, and I fucking loved it. Okay. The next book I have is Dom by S.G. Tilley. I went to Love in Vegas, and I read this the week of Love in Vegas, and I picked this up at Love in Vegas because I had to meet S.J. Tilly. I loved this book. It has been a very long time since I read a mafia romance that I was like, oh, hell yes. I devoured this book. It is unhinged. He's completely crazy, but I absolutely fucking loved it. I loved it. I think that this was a fantastic mafia romance with this thing that I did not see coming. I don't know how I describe this book. I don't know what it is. It's like candy. I want to read all the other books in the series. I'm just going to say like a couple things. They get married, and she is under the impression it's one way, and he's under the impression that it's another. I don't want to give too much away, but basically she thinks that he really does like her. He's doing it because of who her family is. That's not a spoiler. But she refuses to wear the wedding ring. So what does he do? He drugs her to make her fall asleep and tattoos his name 4 times across her ring finger for the 4 men that she was with before him. And then on top of that, it says till death. Now, he is covered in tattoos, you could tell from here. He gets her name right here, bold letters, and gets till death right above his unfucking hinged, but it was fantastic and I loved it. Now, the last book I have to talk about actually comes out November 9th, so I want to really briefly talk about it. I will be talking about it in a Romances I'm Obsessed With video coming soon, but this is Ice Bet by S.J. Silvis. I am a big fan of Weak Side by S.J. Silvis because that is more friends to lovers. He's super swoon worthy. Ice Bet is a literal enemies to lovers. She is the coach's daughter. She is a figure skater. He is a hockey player. He's a very good hockey player. They're in college, and she has a very rocky relationship with her dad. There's trigger warnings for talks of eating disorders and talks of previous sexual assaults, I will say, so I'll just throw that out there. The trigger warnings are on the cover. I hope she's going to put them in the finished copy, but this book was fantastic. I gave it 4.5 stars. I will say I gave it 4.5 stars because the beginning of the book was a little bumpy for me, and I think that it kind of glossed over that a little bit, but I love the dynamic between the characters. He's helping her get back on the ice, which takes so much patience, and he doesn't have to do it, but the coach is like, hey, watch out for my daughter, and he's like, okay, well, I guess I will, but in turn, he starts falling for her because he's like basically borderline stalking her in a way that like she knows he's following, and I love the banter between them. I love this series so much, and I'm so glad I got an ALCF for it. I think S.J. Silvis is killing with this hockey romance. So with all that being said, those are the damn books that I read in October. I read a ton of books, which I was not expecting, but it was the month for new releases. So with all that being said, drop me a pumpkin emoji in the comments down below because October was Halloween. I didn't really celebrate Halloween because I was on a plane most of the day, but drop me a pumpkin emoji in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content from me. As always, I hope you're living a novel life, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.